Welcome to our coffee chat, your 2020 RMD Scoop, the changes you need to know for making your required minimum distribution. My name's Jeff Stein, and I'll be your host today. Before we begin today's conversation, I have a couple of items I'd like to touch on. Thank you for joining us. We get great pleasure in bringing you interesting speakers and content. You deciding to take time to be part of our community tells us the time and effort spent putting these chats together is appreciated. Thank you to Lauren Blair, our head of marketing, and Mitchell Taylor for putting this chat together. Today's presentation is intended to provide you with information to assist you in understanding required minimum distributions, RMDs. Today's presentation will be recorded and available on our website, steinfinancialgroup.com. We will also be sending the presentation by email to those of you who RSVP'd for this event. Since this event is being recorded, please disconnect if you choose not to be part of this recording. During the live presentation, please use the chat feature at the bottom of your screen if you're online. This will allow you to ask questions anytime during the presentation. There will be a time after the presentation to ask additional questions live. Our presenter today is Anthony Gerby. Anthony's been a member of the Stein Financial Group since 2014. He's the head of analytics and strategy within our group. He leads our investment committee, where one of his responsibilities is providing our group and clients with market and solution guidance. Anthony also spends time with our clients, setting up systems and directing them towards achieving their financial goals. Anthony is a graduate of the University of Minnesota, where he earned a degree in economics and a minor in statistics. Anthony, please help us understand the implications of the critical events that took place during the first half of the year and how they relate to the required minimum distributions. Anthony, please take it away.
Well, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for attending, whether you're here live with us now or at some future date watching on our YouTube channel. Please, or I should say thank you for joining us. So your 2020 RMD Scoop. One thing I want to get out of the way right away, I think most of you would know this, otherwise you probably wouldn't have known to tune in here. But what does RMD stand for? Well, RMD stands for Required Minimum Distribution. And those are those distributions that you're forced to take out of your qualified retirement plan once you turn 72. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, wait a minute, you said 72. I thought it was 70 and a half. Well, up until December of last year, or up until, I guess, January 1st of this year, you would have been right. But that's one of the things that's changed in 2020, among a few other big things. And that's exactly why we're having this webinar, to go over those changes and to give you the information that you need to make the right decisions, or that we might help you make the right decision. So we're going to go through this slideshow, and it's a short one today. And I can hear the sighs of relief being breathed all the way through your computer monitors. And it's short, but I'm going to say it's very impactful. It's simple yet impactful, because RMDs aren't really that complicated when you drill into them. And I hope that I'll be able to do a decent job of kind of boiling them down into the most salient points here. But really, I think they're one of the most impactful things to get right about retirement planning or just general investing, making sure that you're doing these correctly, number one, but two, using a few different strategies to make it work for you the best possible way can really make a big difference. So I'm pleased you're all with us today, and I hope I can make this simple and boil it down. I will say right at the top, and you'll hear me say it a number of times as we go through this, there is no one-size-fits-all solution here. What's right for you may be completely wrong for your neighbor, or for someone in what seems like a very similar situation to you. It's very down to the individual. And what I'm going to harp on the whole time is, please talk to us if you have questions. Or we may talk to you and say, hey, have you thought about an RMD strategy? What should we be doing here? So we want to tailor this to you, and keep that in mind as I go through all of these different items here. Some, maybe most, might apply to you, but some won't. And you can talk to us or your advisor about who or which ones best apply to you. So with that said, what is an RMD? And put it very simply, RMD stands for required minimum distribution. Required minimum distributions are minimum amounts that retirement account owners must take out each year starting the year they turn 72. Now, like I say, that changed this year. It used to be 70 and a half. So if you turned 70 and a half in 2019, you still have to take out an RMD this year, or you would have had to. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Spoiler alert. There was another rule that affected this year specifically. But even if you're 71, you would have had to this year. So it was a line in the sand January 1st saying if you were under or if you had already started taking your RMDs at 70 and a half, then you have to keep going. But if you're under 70 and a half this year, you can wait until you're 72. RMDs are taken from traditional IRAs, SEP IRAs, 401ks, 457s, 403bs, profit sharing plans, Roth 401ks. You'll notice I've gone on. There's even more than what we've listed here, right? All of those accounts require distributions, and they all come out in the same way, or they're all taxed in the same way. They're all treated basically the same way. The Roths are a little bit different. But how you manage them and what you can do with them can change based on what type of account they're in. We're going to get into that a little bit later, but it's something to keep track of, because if you have a 457 and an IRA, that requires two distributions. You can't just pool them and take it all from one. We'll get into a little bit more of the details on that, but that's an important thing to note right away. I do want to highlight right here, Roth IRAs. You do not have to take a required minimum distribution from a Roth IRA. And just to refresh your memory, a Roth IRA is an account where you already paid taxes on the money that came in. Now, you might remember, as I was listing or doing the list right here of things that are subject to RMDs, I listed a Roth 401k, or for a lot of you in the audience, perhaps a Roth 457 might be more applicable. RMDs are required. So one of the things you can look at, I'm getting to a kind of a strategy here right off the bat. You can move a Roth 401k or a Roth 457 into a Roth IRA. And if you do that prior to turning 72, you are not subject to RMDs from that Roth IRA. So that's a very important strategy for those of you who may have been contributing to the Roth portion of your work accounts. That's something we can help manage. And here it is, the first time I'm saying it. Please call us if that's your situation, because we at very least want to review that. All right, what's new in 2020? Well, I talked about the age 70 and a half to 72. Let's go over it. And, if you want to be the smartest person or perhaps the most boring person at the cocktail party, you can tell everyone what the SECURE Act stands for. And it stands for Setting Every Community Up for Retirement Enhancement. Wow, great. That sounds amazing. What did it do? Well, it first off changed that initial distribution age from 70 and a half to 72. So let me reiterate that again. Right now, as of 2020 and going forward into the future, that first year that you have to take your required minimum distribution is 72. It used to be 70 and a half. They bumped it up a couple of years. And to me, again, everybody's situation is different. I think that's a good thing, because for those people who don't need that money, you can wait a couple extra years before you have to touch it. I think that's great. By the way, you can take money out of your retirement plan or your IRA or your Roth or any of those accounts that we listed, as long as you're older than 59 and a half, without any penalty in the first place. So it's not that it's stopping you from taking money out. It's just delaying the age at which you're forced to take money out. And that's a big deal, because, hey, a couple extra years of earnings, I'll take that for sure. The other thing it did, and it's important to note, although I don't know how applicable it's going to be, is it allows traditional IRA owners to contribute indefinitely. There used to be a cap on that. And it's not as wide open as it might sound from that wording, because in order to contribute to a traditional IRA, you still have to have earned income. And earned income traditionally is work income. So it's not your Social Security check. So if you're retired and you're not working anymore, you actually can't contribute to a traditional IRA. Not because there's a cap on age, but because you don't have earned income. That's just a separate rule. So, however, if you are working, maybe you're retired, but you picked up a part-time job, then you're not subject to the caps, and you can put in, up to 6,000 or 7,000 or depending on what your age is, to your IRA every year. And that's a great thing. It allows people to save more. We're all for that, for sure. What's also new in 2020, or what's new in 2020 continued, is the CARES Act. And again, most boring person at the cocktail party, although now that I say it, cocktail parties, what are those, right? We haven't had many of those in 2020 so far. The CARES Act stands for Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. And this is better known as the stimulus bill. This is the $2 trillion stimulus bill passed in March of this year. It included your stimulus check. It included the paycheck protection, the PPP money that small businesses got to take advantage of, all the different federal money. Everything was wrapped into that one stimulus bill, including this, which affects your RMDs. And what it did, and this is huge, it waived your RMDs for 2020. So if you were going to be subject to RMDs in 2020, you no longer have to take them. You are not required to take a single cent out of your IRA. And one of the first question we get when we bring this up is, but I still can, right? And the answer is yes, of course you can. You can take out, you can completely ignore that, and you can take out as much as you want. Of course, you still have to pay taxes on that, but you do not have to take out any required distribution this year, which I think is a great thing. By the way, why would they do that? Well, back in March, when the market was down significantly from where it was, they were sensitive, by they I mean Congress and our political branches, were sensitive to the idea that many retirees were going to be forced to take money out of their accounts that might be down quite a bit because of the pandemic. They wanted to eliminate the concern about that. So first off, if you still want your RMD, or if you need your RMD, you should still take it. And the people we work with generally have fallen into two camps this year. One is, well, I never need my RMD. I'd love to not have to take it if I don't have to, because I don't need the money. And wow, that's a great place to be in. First off, congratulations. But second of all, if that's you, then it probably doesn't make sense to do it, to take that RMD, because you don't have to, right? You might as well leave it in there, let it grow, let it recover, and stick with what your investment plan is. Now, if you do need the money, you should still take your RMD. And this is, in general, and we can get into specifics with your specific situation. But if your RMD is factored in as part of your monthly cash flow, for example, and if without taking it, you would have a tough time meeting that monthly cash flow, well, then it's probably going to make sense for you to keep taking it. We're going to look at it on a one-off basis. No one-size-fits-all solutions here. But that is kind of the two camps that most people have been falling into. So it's not a bad thing to still take a distribution this year. Just know that you don't have to. And then the big question, right? What if I took an RMD already before this law got passed? Or I took it in June and I wasn't even aware of this, maybe on another account that wasn't with us, or whatever the case might be. Well, actually, you can put that distribution back. And distributions taken in 2020 that would have been considered RMDs, if not for the CARES Act, can be repaid to that account. Now, depending on how long ago you took the money out, there's a few more hoops to jump through. And depending on whether you needed it or not, obviously, again, if you needed it, take it, spend it, good. That's what it's there for. You saved it. But if you took it, let's say in January, and you said, I really didn't end up needing this, and this was before I even knew that I wasn't going to have to take it, maybe I can put it back in. And the answer is call us, because we can talk through whether that's going to make sense for you or not. But it is an option, just so you know. How is your RMD calculated? A lot of questions surrounding this. And the answer is they take your previous year-end balance and multiply it by a life expectancy calculator. Well, wow, that isn't that a lot of information that I just gave you? What they do is this. They take your balance on 12/31, December 31st. They run it through then a formula that the IRS has. And it's not a complicated formula. You can actually pull it up yourself online if you just Google IRS RMD table. And it's based on your age. And, again, 72 is the first years now. So if you're 72, they multiply it by a factor, and it's whatever they decided to be. Right now, the first year your payment is going to be about 3.65%, I believe, of your account balance. So that factor, though, is what changes. So every year you age, and this is the second bullet point here, that factor increases. So the next year it's going to be more than 3.65%. And the next year it's going to be more than that, and more than that, and more than that, and more than that. And eventually, once you get into your 80s and 90s, it's going to be, upwards of potentially 10% of your account, if not more. So that leads me into two, I think, common misconceptions here. And one is, I think a lot of people assume that first year, that year you turn 72 or in the past 70 and a half, that first year's distribution is a lot higher than it is. It's only 3.65%. It's not a huge chunk of your portfolio. I mean, round it up, think of it as 4%. That's 4,000 per every 100,000 you have invested. That's not a giant chunk. I'm not saying it's nothing, but it's not, 20, 30% of your account. So it starts out small. It does ramp up, but it starts out small. The second piece is, I think a lot of people assume that because of these required distributions, I'm going to be forced to completely empty my account at some point. And the answer to that is not yes or no. It's a little more complicated, but just think about it. If you're taking a percentage out every year, your balance will actually never go to zero. It'll gradually decline and get closer and closer and closer to zero. But if you're taking 10% out, even, once you're in your 80s or 90s, that's 10% of your remaining balance calculated from 12/31 of the year prior. So it's not 10% of what your account balance was when you were, 50 or 60 or 72. It's 10% of the account balance that you are when you're, 85 or whatever the year is where it goes to 10%. So it'll never drain it. It'll always just keep taking a bigger and bigger chunk. Now, of course, if you're taking distributions out, your account may eventually get closer and closer to zero, right? If you keep taking money out, eventually the money won't be there anymore. That's pretty simple. But if you keep only taking a percentage, it'll actually just decline and never quite get to zero. So I think that's a misconception. You're not guaranteed to drain your account just because of RMDs. You may want to drain your account. You may end up doing that, even if you didn't want to, but it's not a necessary fact. A couple more quick things here. You can always take out more than your RMD. This is another big thing. You're not just limited to your RMD. So let's say your RMD for this year would have been, or 2021 when it's going to get reinstated again, 5%, or excuse me, not 5%, $5,000. Let's just pick a round number. You could take 10,000. You could take 20,000. You could take, as much as you want out of that account. You're not limited. What the IRS is concerned about is just that you take at least the 5,000 that you're required to. And you can take that over a number of different distributions. You could take it on a monthly basis, take 5,000 divided by 12 and take that chunk out every month. You could take it quarterly. You could do it all at once, or you could just do it, you could take 25 distributions and just call us twice a month. I don't recommend that because I think it's going to be a little less efficient, but that's an option that's available to you. It's totally flexible how you take the money out. You pay income taxes on it. Now, what we want to avoid is this last bullet point here, and that is the penalty. Now, the penalty can happen in one of two ways, I guess, or in both ways. Number one, if you fail to take out enough. So if your RMD again is 5,000, just to pick a number, and you take out 2,500, well, that means you're short 2,500, right? And you're going to get hit with a 50% tax above and beyond the income taxes you're also going to have to pay. Because remember, this is all income tax money. You're going to get hit with a 50% tax. So if you owe 5,000, you only took out 2,500, you're not only going to have to pay income taxes on that remaining 2,500, that still is going to have to come out. The IRS is going to make you take it out, but you're going to have to pay 50% on top of that. So another 1,250 just in taxes because you were late or because you didn't take out the right amount. The other thing, and I guess you could call being late and not taking out one and the same, right? Not taking out enough, just they'll view it as, well, you didn't take out enough by the deadline. But being late is the other way it'll happen. So let's say, December 31st is your deadline and you take out your 5,000 on January 1st. Well, unfortunately, the IRS is not going to give you that grace period. You're going to owe 50% tax on that full 5,000 that your RMD is for that year. That is something we are going to help you avoid. So I've just talked about a 50% tax. I'm sure all of your ears just perked up hearing, oh my gosh, 50%. How do we avoid that? Well, first off, it's part of our job to make sure you do avoid that. And since I've been here, there's not one case that I know about where any one of our clients has had to pay that. What that says, though, is that we need to be in an active dialogue. We're going to get out to you and say, you're eligible for your RMD this year. This is, when you need to take it by. Here's how it works. Here's how, you get it from us, all that stuff. But it's kind of your responsibility to then, at least give the okay for it. So we got to work in tandem here. Again, it's not something that I'm concerned about for any one of you. I'm not, worried that, oh my gosh, we're this is going to happen. But we need to be in dialogue about it. So it just speaks to, keeping our communication open and making sure that we're on top of where we need to be. Again, we are, as a group, we're taking care of that in your interest. So please rest easy. Just know that, yes, there are penalties here. Dates to receive. And actually, even before I address these two different dates you see, this December 31st and this April 1st, I want to give a quick aside about how you get your RMD, or how you request it, or how it gets to you. And the answer is, if you've got your money with us, or for any accounts that you have with us, it's real simple. You call us, or more likely, we call you or send you an email that says, hey, did you know your RMD is due this year? If it is your first year, you actually have until April 1st to do it of the following year. So again, this year is a weird year, right? Because there are no RMDs for 2020. So let's say your first year of RMDs is going to be in 2021. You actually have until April 1st, 2022 to pay your 2021 RMDs, if that's your first year. And why you would want to do that? You may not want to do that, because every year forward from there, it's December 31st. So you may want to do it by December 31st, the first year. Because if you were to wait until April 1st, 2022, you would then have to take a second one out for 2022 before December 31st. So you'd actually have to take out two payments in that one calendar year. Why would you do it? Just to give you a hypothetical. Let's say we had planned to take out your first RMD in December of 2021. And all of a sudden the market's having some volatility, and you call us up and we're thinking about it. And we're saying, I don't know if now is a good time to take money out of your account. I think we should wait for it to recover. Again, totally hypothetical. That may be a reason for us to say, hey, we can wait a few months. Maybe we should do that and let things come back. Now, would we actually say that at the time? That totally depends on the context of what's going on and what situation we're in. So that's why I'm keeping things very hypothetical here. But that would be a potential reason why we might delay it. Usually, though, we tend to recommend, you probably want to do it in that first calendar year, just so you don't have to take out two within the same calendar year. Because remember, this is all taxable income here. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Again, how do you get the money from us? If it's an account that we manage, you just call us. We set up, if we need to set up direct deposit paperwork, we'll help you with that. We can set it up, as I mentioned, monthly, quarterly, one time a year, 7 times a year, a distribution of 1/7 of your amount. It's totally flexible. If you set it up for monthly and you decide, I don't actually like that, we can cancel it. It depends a little bit on the type of account and what you're invested in. I'm not going to say one size fits all here, but in general, you call us, we set it up. It's a very quick and easy process. So please don't be, nervous about that. First off, we do this every day. And second off, it's very quick and simple from your perspective. How will your RMD affect your tax situation? I've mentioned this a couple times. Just to reiterate, your RMDs are treated as ordinary income. It's taxed like income. It's taxed like you're getting a paycheck for whatever the amount is. And like a paycheck, or maybe similar would be a better word, we can do your withholding for you. So if you call us and you say, I would like to take out my $5,000 RMD on, October 15th this year, or whatever date, we can say, great, would you like to withhold any taxes? And by the way, we can help, zero in on what might make the most sense for you to withhold. But we can offer you federal and state tax withholding, even if you're not a Minnesota resident, by the way. You don't just have to live, we can withhold tax for any state. So again, very simple. We just need to make sure we're withholding enough, or if we're not withholding, that you know that you're going to have to pay taxes on the money, income taxes. At the end of the year, you're going to get a statement that shows exactly how much money you took out, and you're going to be able to plug in those cells or on the form you'll get to your 1040. It'll show you exactly how much tax you owe, and if we've done a good job on the withholding, you'll already have withheld the right amount of tax, and it'll just be a record keeping thing. So just keep in mind that it's income tax when you take money out of one of these qualified plans. And what can you do now? So we've talked about what an RMD is. We've talked about kind of some of the nuances, the tax situation, the 2020 rules being different. You don't have to take it this year. But let's say you do take your RMD now or in the future. What can you do with it? Well, you can actually do a lot of different things. First off, you can use the funds however you'd like. They're treated as any other source of after-tax income, meaning you can stick it in your checking account. You can put it in your savings account. You could potentially reinvest it. And kind of the decision tree here that I usually encourage people to go through is, A, do I need the money? This is the first question you ask yourself. Because if you need the money, then you spend it. You put it into your cash flow, whether it goes into your checking or your savings, and you draw on it and you use it and you pay off bills with it, whatever. If you need the money, you take it and you spend it. That's what it's there for. You saved it. So that's always number one. Number two, though, and it's kind of represented by this question right here. If my living expenses are covered, what else can I do with it? Well, number one, it doesn't just have to sit in a savings account or a checking account. We could actually reinvest it. Number two, contribute it to a college savings account. Maybe you have a child or a grandchild or even just a family friend who has set up a 529, a college savings plan for their kids or their grandkids or whoever. You can contribute to that with that money, just like you could with cash sitting in your checkbook again. You could give it to loved ones, or you could give it to a charity. And I'm going to circle that one because with all this talk about taxes on that last slide, I can hear the question you're asking, which is, Anthony, is there any way that I can avoid paying taxes on my RMD? And the answer is, and I don't know if avoid's the best word, right, when we're talking about taxes, but there is a way that you can not pay taxes on the amount that comes out of your account. And I'm going to get to that on the next slide. First, I do want to highlight, though, please talk to us. Again, this is one of those situations where your situation is going to be potentially different than your neighbors, even if it looks like you and they are in the same boat on the surface. This is a very personal thing. Excuse me. So we need to talk about this to develop a strategy specific to you. So I promised I was going to talk about charity. Qualified charitable donations or qualified charitable distributions. They are the one way in which you can take money out of your IRA and not pay taxes on it. But I should rephrase that because it's not you taking the money out of your IRA. What this is a direct transfer to a charity out of your IRA. And if you do this and you're over age 72 and you're eligible for your RMDs, you can directly transfer your RMD amount to a qualified charitable organization, which for layman's terms, just think of a 501c3 certified by the IRS. If you're curious, you can Google that 501c3. There'll be a big list. You can search it. Pretty much every large charity and many, many small ones, including a lot of local ones, are on that list. So, for the people we've done this for, it has not been a problem having the charity they wanted to go or the money to go to being eligible. Something just to check before you do it, though. So it is a direct transfer from your IRA to that charity. It never touches your hands. And that's important because this is not a write-off. It's not something you have to itemize on your taxes to take advantage of. It is income, or money, I should say, that never touches your hands, and therefore it's not income at all. It is a direct transfer. So again, let's use our handy dandy $5,000 as our default RMD amount here. I'll write it up there. I could directly transfer, if I'm 72 and I'm charitably inclined, I could directly transfer it, and let's say, to the Red Cross, or, pick your favorite charity. And that money directly goes out of my account, and there are forms to do this. But obviously, we have to set it up and get the money over to them, and we can help with this. It's kind of going to be my wrap up here. But that money directly goes from your account to the charity. It never touches your hands. So it's not like we're writing you a check and then we're saying, okay, now you go home and write the check to the Red Cross. No, it never touches your hands. And that's why the money comes out of your IRA, but it never gets taxed because it goes directly to a charity. Now, this is important for two reasons, or it's really the same reason, but two different circumstances in which it's important. If you are already taking your RMDs and you're donating to charity, all of your charitable donations should be coming out of your IRA. And you'll notice I'm writing IRA here. We're going to get to that in just a second. I'm not writing 401k or 457. If you are already donating to charity, you should be taking all of your charitable donations out of your IRA because you can completely avoid the taxes. You don't even have to itemize on your tax return to take advantage. For those of you who do your taxes or pay attention, you probably noticed most people haven't been itemizing lately because the standard deduction on your taxes has become so high. I'm not going to get into the details there, but suffice it to say, charitable donations are not as tax advantaged as they were before the new tax laws. Fewer people are able to take advantage of them, maybe is the way I would say it. This is a way to still take advantage of it. Yes, we want to consider how 2020 tax laws affect this. We're still going to report it as an RMD, so the IRS still knows that you took the money out of the account. We're just saying, hey, I didn't take the money. It went to the charity. Now, I wrote IRA down here in the corner, and I'm going to erase all the ink because this is a really important point. Write it. Oops, excuse me. Sorry about that. My pen. There we go. You can only do this from an IRA. You cannot do this qualitable charitable distribution from a 457, a 401k, a 403b, any work retirement plan. It is not eligible. So in order to take advantage of this, if you're saying, hey, this sounds like a pretty good deal, what you need to do is look at, and I'm not saying do it, I'm saying look at doing an IRA rollover. And again, this is something we would be more than happy to talk with you about. It's something we do very often. What that involves is taking your work retirement account, again, whether it's a 401k, 403b, 457, and moving it to an IRA. That is, for all intents and purposes, a like-to-like transfer. It's taxed in the same way when the money comes out. You know, when you take distributions, it's still taxed like ordinary income. There's no tax penalty or fees to change it over, the rollover. It's kind of a like-to-like, but it gives you the ability to do this. And again, if you're charitably inclined or you're thinking about becoming charitably inclined and you're RMD age, because remember, you have to be RMD age to take advantage of this. This is a great way to do your donations, get a tax benefit for it, which has become harder and harder, as I mentioned, and satisfy the IRS all with one blow. So it's a really powerful tool. It does get a little complicated, as you've probably picked up on by my explanation, but we can help you figure out, again, whether this is a good fit for you or not. So with that, I hope what I've done is, number one, I've explained some of the nuances in a at least semi-understandable way, right? I've boiled down what can seem very complex into something that maybe is a little more simple. But the main thing I hope I've done is I hope I've encouraged you to just ask us and say, you know, and to take our call when we ask you, hey, do you have an RMD plan? Because I think we need to have one. In fact, I know we need to have one. So if you would like to talk about this in more detail, call us. Please call us. We will be posting our number in the description of this video. You can find us on steinfinancialgroup.com, as well as, if you search Stein Financial Group on Facebook, on YouTube, our social medias, please get in touch with us and ask us about your RMD plan, because we'd really like to sit down and make sure it's working for you. So with that, I'm going to open it up to questions, and please, I'm really excited for the questions on this one. So, you can raise your hand, you can just blurt it out. Let's get started.
Anthony, thank you very much. Great presentation. And we'll look forward to hearing what the questions might be. Thank you.